Thank you for coming in and putting yourselves up for this. I've got two questions. I'd like to answer from each. It doesn't matter. Okay, can you hear me back there?
No.
I have two questions. One has to do with the Grover Norquist pledge. Will you sign it? 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 First question. Second question has to do with the possibility that President Obama is reelected. And if he is, and one of you is elected, do you intend to continue to vote in such a way as to obstruct any benefits for the elderly, cutting back on Social Security? Do you intend to participate in the obstructionist Republican activities? As a Republican, I would like, those are the questions to you. I'd like to have clear answers from each.
I'm Jeff Thompson again. I'll take the questions first. Yes, absolutely, I will sign for Grover Norquist about no more taxes, because I'm going to tell you right now, we do not have a tax problem in this country. A lot of people would like to make you think we do. We don't. We have a spending problem. And you, the American people, this country was founded that you have the rights to the fruits of your labor. And I don't think there's anyone in this room that can stand up and tell me that you feel confident the government spends your money wisely and spends it more effectively than you. For heaven's sakes, we just got done spending $50 million trying to figure out who took steroids in baseball. And I'm going to tell you who took them. All of them. Let baseball regulate himself. We bring J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon to Washington, D.C., and we have hearings because his corporation lost $2 billion. They're very well capitalized. They make $4 billion a quarter, $16 billion a year. There's no business people that I've ever met that go out and say, I'm trying to lose money. They're not trying to lose money. He made a bad decision, and a free market allows you to pay the price for a bad decision just like it does for a good decision. Why we bring him to Washington, D.C. and waste your tax dollars, especially when, do you know how much money Grover Norquist, or I'm sorry, not Grover, but Jamie Dimon gave to the people that were questioning him as political contributions? Anyone know? $13 million. They're getting $13 million from him and they're questioning him. There's something wrong with that. As far as taking benefits away from older people, no one above age 50 should have any benefits taken from them. They cannot go back and relive the last 20 years of their life and start over. We have to take care of those people. I will not vote to have any benefits taken from older people, but we need to restructure. People live longer, the mortality tables have changed, younger people are going to have to pay a little bit of the pain. They're going to have to go longer before they retire, and we need to give them some good choices on their Social Security and retirement system. Remember, the country was not founded on entitlement. Social Security is an entitlement program. It's founded on opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I've already signed Grover's pledge. And in regards to your second question, no, I would not vote or support or try to legislate the taking away of any benefit that's currently being paid to somebody who relies on that for their survival. And I'll tell you, one thing I slightly disagree with Jeff on. I don't look at Social Security like an entitlement. I look at it like a tax. This is a tax you have all paid. And all of us sitting up here have paid. And it was a promise that our government, our federal government, would give it back as a form of investment. And it's not going to happen for a lot of people. The reality of the position we're in this country is that we cannot keep printing money. We're printing money at a record pace. So there are good options out there. But to answer your second question, my answer is no.
Thank you. Of course I'd be inclined to sign a pledge that says no more taxes. I mean, this is the kind of inside baseball stuff that you get into in campaigns. I think at this level, you know, if any of these candidates are in a position to give a global, absolute, this is yes or no, what I would do as a sitting congressperson under any set of circumstances, that's rhetoric, I'm sorry. That is buying into inside baseball, of course I'm inclined to agree, no more taxes, okay? Of course, that's easy. However, to sit up here and be a purist and think that I absolutely know everything that's going on the inside would be, in my opinion, short-sighted and not a fair. I would not be honestly responding to your question. So, that's my answer. I would be inclined to, of course, agree not to raise taxes. As for the second question, I would absolutely not meddle with any of the benefits that are of the individuals currently in the system. Do I think we need long-term reform to address an unsustainable system? Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we really need to look at for our country moving forward. We deal with this, with the retirement system, the Arizona State retirement system. It's absolutely, it's just unsustainable, unsupportable. Our future, my little girl, will be the victim if we continue to think that we can just hand out money in the future. Don't worry about right now. We'll just promise this into the future. It doesn't pencil out, and we all know that. We'll figure it out later. That's a big problem. That is a big, big problem, and I'm completely opposed to that think and those actions moving forward. As to the obstructionist, partisan actions, I'm absolutely opposed to that. I think everyone here is sick and tired of business as usual. Politicians aligning themselves by party and saying, you know what, I'll just carry the party's water. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Anyone here can tell you I will not do that. That's paid attention at the Scottsdale City Council. So I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you for that question. The short answer is no. I won't sign the pledge, and I want to explain why. First of all, I want to make clear that I don't believe that this country has a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. So instinctually, I'm not in favor of looking at taxes as the first way to deal with that problem. My problem with the Grover Norquist pledge is that, first of all, as a congresswoman, if I'm to be elected, I don't want to be beholden to anybody. I'm not signing my name to anybody else except to the Constitution and to my constituents. And in many ways, I sort of think that when Republicans who sign this pledge during their campaigns walk onto Capitol Hill, they're going in there with one hand tied behind their back, and all the partisan bickering never gets resolved because of that. And I think that that's why I've chosen as a matter of principle that I'm not going to sign the pledge. As to your second question regarding the entitlements for seniors, I'm a big supporter of much of Paul Ryan's budget. And he's made clear in his budget that the drivers of our problems, of our economic problems, drivers of our debt, are the entitlement programs. And so we have to come to terms with that. But he's also said people at or near retirement are not going to see any changes to the promises that were made to them before. And I think that that's the correct way to go, and I would stand by that. Thank you.
Okay, how's that? Yeah. Great. Quick answers. I will not sign a Grover Norquist pledge. I've got 8 years of a public record, very public record, in the city of Chandler. 2 non-consecutive terms, so the budgets weren't holdover budgets for the most part. And we didn't have to pledge to not increase taxes, just do it. I agree somewhat with Leah. Once you sign a pledge, you're beholden to whoever that group is, good or bad. Okay, I can't tell the future. I do a track record though. I run a business. I know what I can spend and what I can't spend. The pledge, at the risk of sounding cliche here, I've pledged and taken an oath to the Constitution as a military officer. And that's the pledge I believe in. And my pledge was always stated up here, if I'm elected, to serve the people of this district. There's going to be a lot of communication, I would hope. But again, I couldn't, with a clear conscience, sign a pledge, whether it's not to increase taxes or any other pledge that we're asked to sign. And I do have a public record to go back on, so I'm okay with that. The LD entitlements for the benefits. I'm not sure, Jeff, ever heard the LD at 50 to 55, but that's okay. I think the benefits that are earned by people receiving right now, they cannot be numbered, they cannot be touched. The discussion, I believe, is what age is it? Is it 55? Is it 58? Is it 60? I don't know. That's part of the discussion we have to have. One thing that does bother me as a businessman is this. We're talking about cutting or increasing taxes. Why don't we talk about growing the economy? The only way out of this thing is the long-term solution to grow the economy. When Social Security was enacted in the 1940s, there was 4 workers for every 1 taking a benefit. Okay, that's a pretty good ratio. Problem is, people living longer, the escalation of costs, and the retirement age is 65 versus 68 then. So we do have some systemic problems with the basic Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, but the sure way out is this: grow the economy. But the specific answer to the question you asked is this: anybody who's receiving benefits right now, I would not touch. Thank you. I'll start here first. Great. I just have to give you a preview. Grow the economy. Part of the 5-point job creation plan that we laid out is based on my experience as a small business owner, my discussions with larger businesses, and the first part of that is to reduce the corporate tax rate. We can do it by tax credits. A lot of people say, well, that's a giveaway. It really isn't. If someone can only get a tax credit which would lessen their corporate tax structure when they produce a certain threshold, if they don't produce it, they don't get it. But the fact of the matter is we're not competitive right now in the nation or worldwide with our corporate tax structure, about 35%. Add the state tax and how we're at 40%. If you're a manufacturer competing globally, that doesn't work. The second part is reduce regulations. Again, regulations take a lot of time, and sometimes if they're environmental regulations, it takes years to get through those. Okay, we've got to reduce risk for environment. In fact, the idea is let's push the EPA decisions down to the state level. Okay, because it's not the federal government that's going to receive those jobs. We're not saying that the standards are going to be lax, but let's say that a city, a town, a state really want to compete for a big manufacturing company. They're going to be incented and motivated to quickly turn those permits over, especially when it deals with the environment, air and water quality here. The middle class, eliminate the tax on the middle class. Most jobs are created by small business owners in this country. You eliminate those taxes, interest on tax on interest, dividends and capital gains. Guess what? You reinvest it into your company and into the community. You know, the fifth or the fourth one's pretty interesting because we're already doing it SkySong. It's innovative technology. You've got these technologies that are developed on college campuses. ASU is a great example. They push them out to an incubator system like SkySong. They look for venture capital. Okay. Then once they marry up the technology with venture capital, they push it out to the open market. Those things thrive. If you haven't been to SkySong, I really suggest it's right down the street. It's fascinating what those people are doing. The last thing is exports. We have to manufacture and export. We manufacture, we create jobs, we export. The money comes back to the United States in way of just purchases, tariffs, those sorts of things. So again, those 5 points I think is going to be a good start to give the economy a shot in the arm. Thank you.
Where's the gentleman who asked the question? Oh, thanks for asking the question, first of all. And I just want to say that whenever I hear politicians, members of Congress, talking about jobs plans and what they're going to do to bring jobs and to create jobs for their state or this sector of the economy or the other, I think that they're liars. I don't think that congressmen and women can create jobs. What congressmen and women can do is get out of the way and reduce the regulatory regime, stop enacting inane laws that are hampering growth and sort of just strangling the entrepreneurial spirit that is America's way, and just get out of the way of that. And so I'm not going to tell you that I have a point-by-point plan that I'm going to do to get jobs to Arizona. What I will tell you is that I will work vigorously to reform our tax code, to to limit the bureaucratic and regulatory regimes that are coming out of Washington, and to bring as much of the pro-growth policies that we know we need in this country and we've been lacking back into the system, so that people who actually create jobs are able to do them without being hampered by the federal government.
Thank you. There's really not much to add. I think that obviously getting government out of the way, you can't create jobs at the federal level for the private sector. The one thing that you can do is you can restore predictability. I think one thing, over the last 4 years, who feels more secure? Not me. I think the predictability factor is huge. The constant and ever-changing and layering on of regulations. Our federal government, every industry that seems to be slipping is somehow saved. It's the government's excuse to go in and rescue them and essentially take control over our economy. And what I would like to see happen is that we restore control over our economy to the people that make this happen, the free market, the business owners, the entrepreneurs, the hardworking community, the citizens, and not have government come in and try to salvage every industry that seems to be experiencing problems. It leads to unpredictability and insecurity, anxiety, if you will. Of course, we want to do our best to reduce taxes. That goes without saying. And where possible, that's absolutely a priority, and I think that, in essence, can stimulate people getting back to work and businesses feeling secure to go out and grow their business. Right now, in my opinion, people have so much anxiety, they don't want to take on more. They don't want to support more employees. They don't want to have to pay, with the healthcare changing. They don't know where they're going to be in a year. So restoring predictability at this point is absolutely key, and you do that through lessening regulation or not layering on, and trying to rein in the government or the federal government's interference in our businesses.
Thanks, Roger. I'll be the first one up here to say that as a member of Congress, I can't create jobs. I can get the federal government out of the way and run interference on legislation that's designed to kill jobs. And there's a lot of them. And it comes from both sides of the aisle. The reality is, it comes down to what do we take an oath and swear to uphold is the Constitution. What's the purpose of the Constitution? Anyone?
Bind the country, bind the citizens.
To protect the citizens.
It's a charter, and part of it is to protect.
From the federal government. Yes or no?
Enemies from abroad.
Right. So to protect us from our own government is a function of the Constitution. So a representative of this republic should go to Washington understanding that is one of the charters. And to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for the private sector. I'm going to do this for the individual citizen. I'm going to do this for your free speech. I'm going to do this for your right to own a gun. Actually go to Washington to uphold that document and to protect the citizens of this representative republic. That's what we can do. The free market we were given will do the rest. Innovators, job creators, the Steve Jobs of the world, the Intels of the world, they will do the rest. We have to learn as politicians how to take our hands off of all of you sitting out here right now.
Thank you. Jeff Thompson again. I'm going to have to disagree. The government does not create jobs, that's true. It creates an environment for jobs. But what we do and what we don't do has a direct impact on jobs in Arizona and everywhere else in this country. You've heard people talk about regulation. Regulation is stifling. Dodd-Frank has some good features to it. But as one piece of legislation, it's bad and it's crippling for the job market. It has to be repealed. Sarbanes-Oxley has been on the books too long, and it is a problem, and it creates a tremendous amount of additional employees that companies have to hire to do the paperwork. It needs to go also. Regulation, if we do reduce regulation, as members of the House of Representatives, it will create jobs. The next thing we have to look at is corporate income tax. We have a very high corporate income tax rate. It's 35%. Now remember one thing. When there's a rate, a tax rate on businesses, it's a tax rate on every one of you. Because it costs you more for goods and services. Because businesses simply take their costs and they turn around and price their products accordingly. So if we reduce the corporate tax rate, it's going to reduce your costs. It's going to give you more money in your pocket to spend. That will in turn help the economy and create jobs. We also need to deal with the oil industry. Keystone needs to be approved. There's very little danger in the Keystone pipeline. It creates jobs immediately. So by passing that legislation, we create jobs. We need to open up shallow water drilling. It's very safe. But the activists have pushed the drilling deep offshore. And when you're drilling a mile deep and you have a problem and a leak, it's very difficult to repair. We saw that last year in the Gulf. We have to have shallow water drilling. If we have the ability to give permits to American companies, not Brazil and Colombia, and Obama said, we'll be your best customer, drill in our Gulf of Mexico. No, those jobs should go to American people. And we should treat the Canadian neighbors to our north with more respect and dignity. I'll tell you something else we should do is we should have a repatriation holiday and allow all that money that's offshore because of our poorly thought out tax system, bring it home, no 35% tax, but let's tell them this, you bring it home, you have to spend 25% of it on job creation. Those are all going to create jobs, and I'll tell you what else, we have too many military people abroad, we need to bring them home. Let's open some bases in Arizona for border security. If we could bring 80,000 troops home and put them along the border, they'd spend their money in this country, not abroad. Thank you. Next question.